I'm Michelle Owen, I'm the Public Works Director. So I wanted to talk a little bit about our water system. Mike has covered much of that. I wanted to explain to folks who may not be familiar with Baker City's water system that we in fact take our water from the Baker City watershed, which is 10,000 acres and has a number of different diversions. And I thought I wanted to talk through that. One piece of information that I think is important for people to understand is that as soon as we learned that there was in fact the potential that this could be a waterborne illness spread by city water, that staff's reaction was to go turn out the most suspect water at that point, which was the Goodrich diversion. Because it had been turned in July 15th, roughly, and the symptoms that the health department were discovering were approximately 10 days after that. So that made the most sense. So we turned that water out very early in the morning when we discovered that. And later that morning, we also issued a boil water advisory. Once we got the tests back that Mike talked about that confirmed in fact that it was in the water, we issued that boil water notice on Saturday. It was sometime after the Shrine Parade, and we utilized the reverse 911 system to get out that information as quickly and to as many people as we could once we confirmed that it was in the water. And so I wanted to add that little bit to the timeline discussion. Again, Mike has already covered the testing results. Yesterday morning I got a call from the lab with that result from the Elk Creek diversion, that 913 number. I had not received the written confirmation of it, but as soon as I got that call, I hung up the phone and called our water operator and had him go turn that water out. So that water is no longer coming to town. And I wanted to make sure that that was clear, that that water is not mixed in with our water that is currently coming. So I wanted to give you that reassurance. The next item I just wanted to talk about a little bit was the water curtailment status. We have a water curtailment ordinance in effect in Baker City, and at the direction of the city manager, we moved to status 2, which is level 2. And what that means, it's a voluntary request to reduce your water usage until I know what water sources that we are authorized to use and can use. It's wise to conserve the water that we do have, specifically the well water that we know to be very safe to use. And so I notified, I believe it was on the 1st, and I'll have to check that whether it was the 31st or the 1st, talked with the school district about their use of water at the sports complex. I cut back the parks and cemetery, and actually had the cemetery water shut off and all parks shut off with the exception of Geyser Pullman that went on a very restricted amount, and then requested that the golf course reduce their irrigation to just keeping the tee boxes and greens. Since that time, we've tried to manage the amount of water coming to town to be able to meet the public's need and be able to meet some irrigation need. Again, at this point it is voluntary, and I will just encourage people to use their water wisely. As we determine which water sources we will be able to use, we will become more clear on that. If I have to ask people to cut back further, that will begin another public notification about that if we go to mandatory restrictions. I'm not saying we're going there. I just wanted to make that clear that we have voluntarily asked, and everybody in the community, as far as the large water users, has been very receptive to that and very helpful. And so this is a great community to live in, and they have been very cooperative, and I wanted to let folks know that. The other item that I had on my report is with regard to the Salmon Swim Center. And I see that Heidi Dalton is here. I hate to put her on the spot, but if you wanted to come and talk about that to this group, I think that maybe that would be useful information. When we learned that I'll just give back up. When we learned that the water was indeed the source, we asked that they close the pool. The city does not regulate the pool. That's regulated by the state. However, knowing what we know about the Cryptosporidium in the water, it was advised that we look a little more closely at how we operate the pool. And so we've had a number of discussions, and, again, Heidi, I don't want to put you on the spot, but perhaps you can say it best.